I don't.
Excellent. We're now
Oh,
live.
we're now live. This is the
Exciting. So we are
this is the,
casting to YouTube today.
yeah, YouTube, the Facebook page. We're live in the Facebook group, Periscope, MySpace, I think G4.
We're broadcasting
Oh,
to Krypton, whatever's left of it. They're getting the last traces of our feedback in Argo City.
they sure are. Yeah, and we're also streaming live to Star City post crisis, of course. So they've got literally nothing to watch. I've
Except
been
for us.
yeah, I've been burning through the Justice League animated show,
Oh, okay.
and I forgot like how adult that show was. Like there's it's like we've talked about this a couple of times that there's quite a few shows where you're like, I don't think that's for kids. Like, why is that? There's a
Yeah.
lot of that. But you know
Yeah.
what? Once we're live, I'll be more professional.
I think we are live.
Oh, we are live.
We
Hello
are very
everyone.
live.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy comic book day. Let's just call it comic. Can we just call it comic book day?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are claiming Wednesdays now for comic books.
Comic
now
book
and
day.
forever.
It's our favorite weekly holiday. It is now what we're going to be kind of talking about in a little bit. A lot of you guys did vote in the Facebook group. We had 4 free issues from Image that they had personally put up on their website, and we had picked 4 that me and Amy had both either not read or, in Amy's case, had not read in a very long time. And Monstrous #1 had won. Did win the poll, and we both read it. Did you reread it, or did you have it fresh enough in your brain?
Oh no, I barely remembered any of it. And since it's become so popular since I picked up the first issue originally, I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I did reread it, but I actually pulled out the physical issue. Before we get too far into this, should we introduce ourselves in the show, maybe, real quick?
I think that's probably a great idea. Hi, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Oh, yeah, wait. There's a rhyme and a reason to this. Okay, go ahead,
All
Amy.
right. I'm Amy.
I'm Paul.
And welcome to the Comics Hall.
Friggin' nailed it.
Da-da-da.
Yeah. I hope everyone liked our cold open there, like just to get us kind of comfortable.
All the best sitcoms were just like The Office. The Office has cold opens.
Exactly.
So as Paul was alluding to, we're in a very unique global situation, as I'm sure you're well aware, especially if you are returning from watching previous episodes of our show. Thank you very much. Wednesdays are typically known as New Comic Book Day, or NCBD, but the comic book writer Matthew Rosenberg, also known as Ashcan Press on Twitter, has begun a new initiative that is kind of sweeping the comic book world by storm right now, and it is NTYCBD, New to You Comic Book Day.
It's a lot of letters, Amy.
It is a lot of letters, and I had to make sure I got them in the right order. Just because new books are not hitting the shelves, which they are currently not, and this is the second week in a row that publishers have chosen to withhold their digital publishing of comics as well. So there were no new Marvel, no new single issues from DC, and the like. So new comic books are not hitting the stands, but that doesn't mean that there aren't books that you haven't read. And if you have read every single comic book, please call us because we have some questions.
I have a lot of questions. So yeah, happy New to You Comic Book Day. So kind of, again, right now, things are a little bit slow, not only in the publishing side, but as well as on the news cycle for comic books. Obviously the major headline is books are not being put out. I think that kind of goes without saying. I mean, we will keep you updated when there is vital news to really share with everyone. I know right now, like DC is putting out some books in the digital format. Marvel, if I remember correctly, Amy, they're not putting out any books.
No,
right now.
Marvel
Any new
has,
releases.
Yeah, Marvel has withheld all their books. The primary releases from DC were direct to digital books that were going to be that way anyways, or I believe they've done some like reprinted or trade editions. We've got some chats coming through on YouTube and Facebook. We've got a couple of hellos in YouTube, and Cal L in Facebook says, "Wicked background, Paul."
Thank you. Yeah, I live in Atlantis. That's why my hair is always a mess. I'm just always getting out of the water, basically.
Cal L, how's the reception on Krypton?
Yeah. Well, it's good if it makes sense that he's watching, because you said we were streaming live to Krypton.
Yes, we are.
It's Krypton Night Live. But yeah, so there are a lot of books out there that aren't being published right now. And again, I am optimistic to a fault. So I'm just saying this is just temporary, but I'm excited for when things do go back to normal, Amy, because then we'll have job security for months and months and months because there's going to be so many books that we're going to buy. I'm going to take out a small loan, most
Yeah, I was
likely.
gonna say we're gonna have to
Yeah.
finance our houses to actually catch up on all those books. Yes, but the publishers are reevaluating their publishing slate. Actually, one of the pieces of news to come out of the last week is unfortunately Marvel has put a pause on about 1/3 of their May and June books. So they have given the pencils down notice to a number of freelancers. But Donny Cates did a really cool thing this last week. In addition to supporting artists in the community, he wanted to support the artists who were kind of furloughed by this decision. So he wanted to commission artwork from them. I was following his kind of tweet campaign. Donny Cates really likes Miracle Man, and so he was
Right.
commissioning pictures of Miracle Man from artists who may have been laid off at this time, which was really
Right.
cool. And he did that as a gesture of solidarity because, according to him, none of his books have been paused. So you can expect more Venom and Thor coming down the pipeline eventually from that creative team. So that
Yeah,
was really
and I mean, yeah, that's a really, really great campaign they're doing. There's all kinds of folks doing things very similar. I know I've been following again, just keeping on theme of us. I of course Amy is following people that are more known to the Marvel side and me the DC side. I
mhm.
know Jim Lee has been doing commissions. He's been doing
Mm.
daily drawings of different DC heroes that are just pen and you can bid for them, and if you win the bid, you get to tell him what the next character will be.
Oh,
So if anyone wants to
fun.
split it, the opening bid starts at $2,500. So,
Oh,
just casual. But
because
what's
you're
great
not
is that
spending money on comics now, so you've got all that extra.
yeah, I have 4 houses now. I didn't know what else to spend my money on. But they are starting at $2,500. They've gone already up, I think, to like 6 grand for like one of his Doomsday prints that he did.
Wow.
And every single penny is going to a fund that is for comic book creators and artists. I know it's very similar. I didn't write it down. It's not on the, it's I have it on the tip of my tongue, but the fund is it's pretty prominent. It's been out there for quite a while.
Mhm.
But yeah, but do believe that Jim Lee is donating every single penny of that to that fund to help comic book creators right now in a very very obscure time.
Yeah. Looking at the chats again, we've got Joshy G in the Facebook chat. Hi, Joshy G. He
Hey,
was
Joshie G.
you were working on a superhero fitness program, right? We
Yeah,
we
that
should
that
we
was
should
great.
probably
I was I've as contrary to popular belief, I am not Batman as much as I would like to be because just Joshie G's warm up, I already had me winded. I'm glad I wasn't on camera for that because it would have been quite embarrassing. But yeah, Joshie G is the host of our well, he's a obviously a sideshow host in general.
Yeah.
A lot of you folks might know him. He had a really we put up a really great skit of him today, just lifting and turning on the air conditioning with the Power Stone. That was pretty great. But he does host our Wednesday noon Pacific Standard Time show, which is Get Super with Joshy G, and he basically is just going through a workout routine that is geek themed, or he's in some sort of geeky shirt for all of us, whatever it may be. But I mean, these are actual fitness routines. I did it today. It was so much fun. We had a bit of a technical issue, but we're gonna get that worked out, and that'll be fine. But yeah, Joshy G, if you're here, thank you so much for doing that, man. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait for next week. I'm already
Yeah.
stretching.
Should consider incorporating a workout that involves like lifting your short boxes of
It
comics.
should.
That might be an awful challenge. Yeah, let's see who else we got. We got a bunch of people. Jasmine Edwards is rereading her favorite comics instead of reading new ones. That's
Yeah.
always good. That's not necessarily new to you, Comic Book Day, but that is near and dear to you, Comic Book Day, which is even more letters of an acronym that I don't know how to spell. And Don Fraser in YouTube says he was really looking forward to the new Werewolf by Night. Yeah, who was writing that? Oh my goodness.
Werewolf by
Um,
Night. That.
I'm
Oh,
going to look it
geez.
up. It's a Marvel title. And I know they were
Not
bringing it
sure.
back, but I think it's Taboo. I think Taboo is co-writing it
Is he
from the Black Eyed
really?
Peas. Yeah. Yeah, I share your pain. I was really looking forward to the new Black Widow series. Um,
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few. I know. one of the things I was most looking forward to, and it was unfortunate because it got pushed back right before, the world went nuts, was the Supersized X-Men, Magneto. I was really psyched for that.
Mm.
And then it got switched with Nightcrawler. So Nightcrawler I've got. Don't get me wrong, I love Nightcrawler, but I like Magneto more. But like, yeah, there's all kinds of things that have been pushed back. I'd really like to know. And again, if you guys are just joining us, welcome to the Comics Hall, guys. We're your resident comic book nerds here. My name's Paul, and that's Amy. We are coming to you guys live. We're on Periscope, the Facebook page, the Let Your Geek Sideshow exclusive Facebook group. That's Sideshow's exclusive Facebook group, as well as YouTube. So wherever you guys are there any comics that unfortunately right now aren't coming out, but you were because the delay? But what's something that you guys are all looking forward to? Because there's a lot of stuff that isn't on our radar that maybe it should be, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea to keep both in your mind the things that you are looking forward to, because comics will find a way, just like dinosaurs did in Jurassic Park. Comics will find a way, and they will eventually begin publishing again. So it is maybe um, identify those books you're excited about, especially the ones that you want to help support your
Right.
store with when they're able to reopen. Check out the comic book creators, tell them what you like about their work. But now is also a good time, as we mentioned earlier. People are celebrating New Comic Book Day, started by
Yes.
Matthew Rosenberg, but everybody has kind of jumped on that. And so if you were in the Facebook group, you might have seen that Paul put up an exclusive poll where you guys got to help us decide, where we picked books that were new to us, and we got to read them, courtesy of the Image Comics free first issues. Now, if you're looking for, yeah, so this wasn't new to me. I had it in my box, but I never really read this series. So it technically
Yeah.
was new to me, but I was surprised to find that I had it. But you can help us decide on those things in the future. I'm sure we're going to be
Hmm.
reading more issues, but if you want to know where you can access these issues and still support the publishers, because we don't pirate comic books even in a Mad Max wasteland. Um, this was available free from imagecomics.com,
Yeah.
and we have a blog, and it is on Sideshow's main blog. I think they posted it on social, and I think Paul
Yeah.
will drop the link, where we've detailed for you guys a bunch of free comic book resources. A ton of
Right.
publishers still want you to read, so they are sharing a lot of free issues. And Monstrous was just one of 130 something Image Comics issues that are available online.
Yeah, and what's funny is this is a book, and again, this is the book that we're talking about. We're going to be going into a little bit later, in a bit more detail. Is Monstrous Number One? It's an Image book, by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. I really, really hope that there are some of you out there that have already read this or did kind of read along with us, because I have so many questions about this book. But again, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Before this poll, though, I put up a poll last week, because Amy, again, is more predominantly, maybe outside of, I think you had said, like some of the Poison Ivy stuff, and a couple of others, maybe
Teen
small
Titans, Poison Ivy,
Titans, right?
DC Bombshells, kind of like Elseworldy
Right.
type
Yeah,
stuff
she
from DC.
hadn't really read a lot of DC. Maybe some of the stuff that, some of you folks are, uh, you may be familiar with, even if only by name, such as like The Long Halloween, Batman Hush. And Batman Hush was the one that you all chose for Amy to actually read, and you finished it.
I did. I finished it
Right.
today. It was a lot longer than a standard comic book arc, but I was accessing it that oops, sorry about the glare, on the DC Universe app. I do the full
Incredible app.
page reads, but I do love the
Nice.
close-up panels. And I had a really great time reading this. I really liked, I mean, first of all, I didn't realize it was Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. Um, I liked the carousel view of all of Batman's rogues that I got in the story. I started when I started catching up today, I was on the issue where the Joker shows up, and I
Oh,
liked
yeah, yeah.
in the graffiti. I can't seem to zoom in on the page. Um, there we go. I liked in the graffiti that you can see Kane, Finger, Sprang, and a couple other names, and those are all the last names of like people who created so many of these famous Batman characters.
Right.
Um, but I really enjoyed Hush, and I liked that I didn't necessarily need to know everything about Like,
Yeah.
I guess I knew more about the Batman, universe than I thought I did because I was familiar with all the Jason Todd stuff because that caused a lot of drama. I'm now familiar with Huntress because I saw Birds of Prey.
Right.
Um, I love Poison Ivy, so that was cool to see her in the beginning and see her with Superman, like, that was really fun.
Yeah.
Um, but this was a lot bigger of a story than I imagined Batman stories usually are. I usually imagine they're pretty close to the ground and in one place, but there
Mhm.
was one sequence where they're like, "We'll take the Bat car," and they're driving in, and it's like 14 miles to Gotham, and I'm like, "What?" Like, I didn't realize that was but there were so many iconic, uh, scenes and moments, and just every character really had a great every character had a panel where I was like, "That is a sweet piece of art," like, and of course,
Yes.
it's Jim Lee. And I love the kiss that is turned into the DC Direct,
Right.
Hush statue.
Very, very
Um,
notable, famous kiss.
yeah, so that I had a lot of fun reading that, so that was a new to me comic book day. So thank you guys for voting on that, and I think because it came in such close second, I'm immediately gonna hop to The Long Halloween next,
Nice.
before I dive elsewhere into the DC Universe app. I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great book, and again, guys, without all of you, and I think there were quite a few votes for Hush, like, immediately. Without, like, all of you guys participating, we would never know what to read because there's so it's unfortunately that we have so many, or fortunately, we have so many options that sometimes even just like with like binging a TV show, it's like I'm just gonna watch The Office again because there's so much. So it's nice when we can kind of dial in and focus on certain things that a lot of people are like, you have to read this. It's really good. I know we had on a couple of shows, maybe since we were in just the chat cave, Amy, we had people that had told me read Daredevil,
Mhm.
which I bought the first trade. It's on its way.
The Chip
Um,
Zdarsky and
yeah, I'm
Marco
sorry.
Checchetto?
The
Yeah,
the Chip Zdarsky, because I've been wanting to read it. I love Daredevil, but
yeah.
I know Daredevil passingly. I don't really like. I've never really, other than is it's Man Without Fear.
Mhm,
The I've never really honed in on a Daredevil story, and this is one that I was like, it seems super accessible, and I can't wait to read it.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, on the DC Universe app, which we were already using, but now it's basically a a lifeblood source of comics for me right now. I've been diving into a lot of the Rebirth stuff. One of the books that people had recommended a lot was the new Aquaman run from Rebirth.
Mm.
And it's been incredible. I got through the first 6 issues, and I'd read a lot of New 52 Aquaman. I think I might have almost all of it collected somewhere from when John's passed the reins over as well. But yeah, I mean, again, a lot of you guys, please just keep sending us all of the recommendations.
Yeah, because now
You
we
can
have
find us
time.
anywhere. Yeah, now we literally have time. We have no excuses.
I usually go, "That'll definitely go on my list," and then it's at the bottom of a very long list. Spider-Man 62 in YouTube wants to know, have you played the Arkham games? I've played through Arkham Asylum. I own City, but I haven't had the chance to play City, but I know that is a favorite of, someone else on the writing team, Andrew, and it was one of his, staff recommendations for our Stay in Sideshow
Mhm.
series on our blog, so you can I'm sure you're well familiar if you're asking about it, but for those of you who aren't familiar, we are recommending a book, a video game, a board game, and a television or movie thing to watch every day from the staff. And
Yeah.
yeah, the Arkham games are a constant favorite. I loved Arkham Asylum,
Mhm.
so I should probably jump back in at some
Yeah,
point. But
I recommend it. Those are my favorite games of all time.
mhm.
And with the exception of like Sly Cooper, but that's a whole other conversation. I just love Sly Cooper because I love it. But I think I've said it so many different times. I was lucky enough to be on a show the other day with some people with Jeff May and Madison, um, and Bree. It was Batman's birthday yesterday. Well, it was Bruce Wayne's birthday. And I was talking about how the Arkham series, even Origins, so all 4 of them, they are the only games where I've ever taken the time to like 100% them. Like
Ooh,
everything, all
that's
the Riddler challenges, everything. It
oh.
was like that is something that's only 16 and 17-year-old Paul can do, but like 26-year-old Paul does not have the time. I don't even know if they're that old. I don't know how old I was, but like all of those like ridiculous racing challenges, especially once you get into like Arkham Knight, the last one. and
Mm.
the car is like a whole character. It's a whole thing. I love it. I love those. So thank you to whoever asked, because I'll find any excuse to just bring that up anywhere at the DMV. It doesn't even matter at the Atlantis DMV.
Well,
I don't know what that would be called.
yeah, so and we're getting some more comments. Jasmine Edwards, Love Night, Julian Sapien, Immortal Hulk. That is one of those. Okay, so segueing towards the book we ended up reading today for New to You Comic Book Day. There are always those series where you looked at the first issue and you were like, this was pretty cool, but I've got so many other books on my list, so I'm gonna skip it. It's very hard for me to do that ever. And Immortal Hulk is one of those books where I'm like absolutely kicking myself for not following it while it was beginning. And then the book we read today, Monstrous, reading the first issue again reminded me, I was like, this was a really cool concept, but I remember that I think I only had the budget for 5 books a month. 5 books a month, and that it did not make the cut. And so
Yeah,
um I'm glad to hear that Immortal Hulk is really, really going
that's
strong,
the
because
is
that's one of those ones.
has Al Ewing been writing it the whole time?
I believe so, but
Mm,
maybe Julian can correct us if not. I
yeah.
believe Al Ewing has been doing it the whole time. Al Ewing is a force of nature. I mean,
Whew.
he did the first arc for Valkyrie. He did Loki, Agent of Asgard. He's done a lot of good, surprisingly strong
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah, and he's
Um,
spearheading the whole Empire event right now that's going on,
yes,
which is
yes.
a whole undertaking. I'm sure he's not bored. Um, I believe I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Kuba Rigel on YouTube asks, "What about some Spawn comics?" That's a great question. Have you read any Spawn, Amy? Like
I have
I,
never read Spawn.
I can
Uh,
say, because I was at the shop. I do own, I think it's called Spawn Risen, and it's like a almost like an Elseworlds title, I believe, of Spawn. Oh geez. Maybe someone can please help me out there, wherever you're on Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, please help me. But I think it was called Spawn Risen, and it was a story about him like literally fighting his way through hell, like level
mm,
by level.
like a reverse Dante Inferno kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. A reverse Dante Inferno, which someone at a comic book shop that I was going to at the time sold that book to me, like just on the premise, because I love the Divine Comedy. I think it's great. And so they're like, oh yeah, Spawn and Divine Comedy. I was like, perfect.
Very
Um,
nice.
but outside from that, like I know of Spawn passingly, through I'm sure how we all do, maybe like, oh, I know what it is, and I know how iconic, he is and
Mhm.
Carlin is, but yeah, I've
Yeah,
never taken the time,
he's
unfortunately.
kind of the first thing I think of when I think of 90s comics. But I have never read Spawn. The only Spawn book that I have read is the Angela like the mini Angela series, or like the
Oh.
couple issues about Angela, because
Mhm.
I read them to understand her transition into Marvel Comics, which was a fascinating kind of hullabaloo there.
It
Um,
sure is.
but Spawn is on the free Image Comics first issues website, so that might
Right.
be. I think we'll have to do another round of voting for New to You Comic Book Day, and we'll put Spawn up on the next round and see if people want to
Yeah.
vote for that to be the one we read. I'd like to issue some challenges to people to um, try Wicked and Divine, and Die from Kieran Gillen. But
Right.
I think we should get to the comic
Yes,
that
please.
we were. So the choices were Monstrous, Descender, Black Monday Murders, and what was the last one you put on there?
Oh, uh, Midwestern,
Middle West?
Middle West. Thank you.
Middle
Yes.
West. Okay.
Yeah, all books that we had not read before, or again, had not read in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, Monstrous was a case of I know that I bought it. I don't remember if I read it. So, and then reading it, I did remember, but it's been so long. So it was really nice to take a look at it today. So you read it through the website. I happened to find the physical copy.
Right.
This is a big first issue. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys can see that, but this was a $4.99 book when it debuted. This is
Oh,
first
okay.
printing. This is
Which is
first.
a lot for Image.
Yeah.
Which 4.99 book is a lot for Image. So it was
Yeah.
far because I read it digitally on image.com / I think it's read first issues is what it is. I dropped the link everywhere, by the way, guys, just so you know. I can do it a little bit later, or if any of our mods are here, please drop that link for us as well. But if you can remember, Amy, was this something when it kind of came out that was like people were kind of like, "Oh my god, you have to read this book," or was it because now it has become that? But
Yeah, I remember it was buzzed about quite a
right,
lot. I don't remember what Marjorie Liu had just done previously, but she was pretty well known for
mm,
like her X-Men work. Um,
okay,
paired with Sana Takeda, I think this was kind of her big, her big kind of like this was a big deal. I remember it being talked about pretty highly, but in the same circles of the people who were reading like Matt Fraction, Kelly Sue DeConnick. So it was not quite as mainstream as they were now, but it was like these are the big names in indie publishing. So this was going to
right,
be a big thing. I know it went into multiple printings, which is I remember specifically the fact that I had a first printing at my store was a big deal,
yeah,
because
yeah,
we didn't get that many first printings, and then people were like, "We want this comic," so we had to order the second printings. Um, and I remember, I think the Comic Con like directly after it came out, that was the big thing. It was on the Image Comics booth banners and stuff. So it we didn't know that it was going to be a continuous success, but it
mhm,
was a big launch because there's a lot of books that have a big launch and then they just kind of fade into obscurity and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's still going. They're putting out trades. It's good." But Monstrous has only continued to grow in its
yeah,
appeal. Um, and I don't think it's been picked up for like a film or a television series yet, but this is very easily one of the comics that
yeah.
would definitely maybe once the story gets a little further in, but I
I
know it is
I was gonna
quite a
say,
favorite for you.
I think, if I'm looking at it as like a non-comic book medium type person and I want to adapt this, like it's intimidating just by reading the first issue because I found and again, if you were out there, whether Periscope, Facebook, wherever, please digitally raise your hand and let us know if you have read this. Because I we'll try. I mean, I don't know. I'll probably be Amy's the ever professional, but I'll do my absolute best to not spoil too much of it because I don't know that everyone, depending on where you're watching from, has read it. But just some of the well, some there's a lot of adult themes that are in this that
The
are
first
very
the first page
right.
is a it's one of those saga shockers where you're like, "Oh,
Oh
this is
wow.
not all ages Marvel comics." So there's a lot of mature language in this comic. It is rated
And
mature. I think we've mentioned before you can tell the and first of all, check that back cover. Like
ooh,
what?
that's
You
beautiful.
can tell the rating of a comic book
Mhm.
on the barcode.
Ooh,
Usually it's associated with the barcode. So this
look at
is
those
M
triple
for
ones
mature.
there.
I
Nice.
know. First printing, first cover, first issue. I think
First
that's what
issue.
it
Yeah.
stands for.
Yeah, in
Um,
that exact order too.
yeah. So you
Um,
can't tell the rating of a comic, and when they say mature for an independent comic, it is mature. Most Marvel books will only ever get to T or T plus. I think
yeah,
Jessica Jones and like the Max era books are kind of the if they have the parental advisory on the front from Marvel, you know it's a mature title. Um,
right.
but even then, I have a pin of what I think is the last line in this book, which I won't say because it's got a swear word in it. Yeah, Image Comics made a pin of the word bubbles that the cat says on the last panel, and I have that. But independent comics are a lot more free with their mature
Yeah.
subject matter. That being
Between I
said,
would say between this book and Saga, Image loves to use their cats.
yes, yes.
They sure do.
One of the cats in here says the word liar, and I was like, every time you see a cat
It's like,
that
I
can
know
talk,
what you're like.
if it ever says liar,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, or lying.
Okay. Keep
Um,
your secrets.
it's an amazing book. I mean, you can even tell from the cover. The cover artist is the one who also did the interiors.
Right.
So that's one of those things where sometimes the cover will draw you in, but the artist is not the same. This is the same throughout. And what I found most fascinating, and correct me if I'm wrong, this opening this book felt like playing Final Fantasy Online.
Yeah.
Like the world, the steampunk, but also kind of um,
Victorian.
Victorian and then very Eastern influenced kind of
Mhm.
mythology and styling. and then like the characters with fox ears or wings or
Right.
with magic, like it felt like a Final Fantasy game, but in a really good way.
Now, there was I don't know what the actual word for it is. I my entire comic book life, I've called it like the artist, soapbox. I know because I know Stan Lee says Stanley's soapbox.
Mhm.
But there's a little soapbox at the back, at least on the digital version, explaining Marjorie Liu's influence and her reason for kind of creating this book. I don't know if you'd gotten to read that yet, but basically, um, and again, I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but it kind of talks about how her grandparents went through a time of unbelievable tumultuous, war scenes, and they were involved in a lot of things that some other people can't even imagine. And she always had this it seemed like a guilt, like I'm not as strong as them, but it's really well written, even in this small little bit that she had, that she does believe she's strong, and how she thinks that the main character, which I don't know if I'm going to pronounce the name right, is it Maika?
Micah, yeah.
Micah, I love that she says, "Micah is a survivor. I'd like to think my grandparents would recognize her." And, like, it was like,
Oh.
"Oh, wow." Like, I wish I would have read the back part of this book first and then reread to kind of see that influence.
They do have that in the print issue. A lot of new series, especially with the independent books, they'll let the writer have a page to kind of explain the concept or welcome readers in, especially if the book will then later have like a letters column. And because I don't have any further issues of Monsters, I don't know if there is a letters column, but I assume there is because it says you can send us fan art. Um, but I didn't read that, but I don't know if your copy also then had, Sana Takeda's, character sketches. So
Oh,
this is the kind of lineup of characters that you see in the first issue.
yeah, it's definitely in there. I loved it. For the longest time, I was looking, and because I wasn't accustomed to seeing her, how, she had drawn her there, I was looking for Micah. And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
she's dead center is where she is." Like, I was like, "Paul, you idiot, she is dead
Yes.
center."
So
Um,
so without spoiling too much of the story, because I also don't know anything beyond this first issue. So,
right,
I know moderator Jasmine has read the first trade, and if anyone has actually read more of the series than us, please feel free to chime in. Um,
please.
but basically this does take place in a world in which humanity and magical beings are kind of separated,
Right.
and there's a lot of ongoing warfare, and the
The
humans have found an almost alchemical way in which to dissect the magical people and use their magic against them to create this, substance called lilium,
Mhm,
where it can basically turn the tide of the war because
yeah,
magical people cannot withstand the power of Lilium, even though it comes from themselves. It's gone
right.
through an alchemical process. So the book begins with an auction of children who are magical, and they're just little children. But one of them's the Cyclops, one of them has wings, and one of them is like a kitsune kind of fox person. Um, and you get to see the horrible kind of tortures in this. I really liked the sentiment, and let me see if I can pull it up and um so they're in a city and she says so much was destroyed during the war about the
Mhm,
city. And yet some cities rebuilt themselves as if nothing ever happened. Too bad people don't rebuild themselves so easily. And
right.
it's been 5 years since this kind of big conflict. And I got a lot of Spirited Away vibes as well, from some
Oh,
of the
okay.
but but it's more understated. It's a lot less colorful and whimsical than Hayao Miyazaki, but you still get that sense of the epic scale and the world building when you think of the more urban and technological Miyazaki pieces, I think.
See, I think I went to, because again, I haven't seen Spirited Away in a very long time. My brain went to, oh jeez, I forgot who the creator is, but it was an AMC show called The Borderlands. And it
Mm,
was like this very hyper serious, very AMC-esque, hyper gory, story about like these warring factions. They've always been at war, and at this point, nobody can really understand why. They've just been at war.
mhm. Like an
And
inherited kind of war.
Exactly. It was there's even a line in this that it says, you know, the oh yeah, it was in Marjorie Liu's kind of like soapbox where she's talking about how people are hated just because that's what they think they're supposed to do. But the antecedent of that is fear. Is they just don't. They're just afraid not only of the people they're supposed to hate, but of their own people if they didn't hate these people they're supposed to hate.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. And so it was very.
It's
That's I
yeah.
pulled Borderland, the show, the Borderlands from that. Also in that very you know Eastern style influence where there is a lot you don't understand, and the reason is because you're just not supposed to understand it. It's not for you to understand.
Mhm.
Uh, and I loved this story because I took I can't get see I did take notes.
Wow.
Yeah, which comics don't usually require me to do that very often, but I usually do with independent books from Image or Boom or whoever. Like especially when we read Decorum, the Jonathan
Mhm.
Hickman book, I had to take notes because you're thrown into the middle of this huge world, just like Monstrous.
Yeah,
Um,
that tends to happen a lot in independent titles because they don't have the luxury of going, if you don't know who Squirrel Girl is, go Wikipedia it and come back here. They have
exactly, yeah.
to introduce you to the concept, and if you're in, you're in. And unfortunately, when I first read this, I was like, I don't know if I can commit to this. And now my tastes have changed, and I'm more of a fan of this type of thing. And it's like, oh, man, I will probably be picking up the trades for this.
So it does look like on, let me see which part of, so in the Facebook group, Richard Anderson, he looks like he has read the book and he says, and I quote, in the early books, humans are definitely the villains. That changes a bit in the later showings, as people are the same everywhere. He said that's his take anyway. So
Yeah.
it does seem like it changes.
Mhm.
And then we had another comment on the same thread that Julian Sapien had said. Says reminds me of Jeff Lemire's Gideon Falls. Like everyone's just dealing with until someone says. So everyone's just dealing with the world until someone asks why.
Very cool.
I've read a lot of Jeff Lemire. I've never read Gideon Falls actually. I don't know if
That was another one that I've heard a lot of good things about.
right.
It's more recent and it was picked up for television. He's doing it with Andrea Sorrentino.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, so that's yeah, I believe so. But yeah, I've heard good things about that. Again, it's one of those things where it's like I wish I could have I now I've got the time. The finger on the monkey's paw has curled. I've got the time, but I don't have the finances or resources. But that might be a book that is free first image comic number one on the website. I'll check it out and see if it is. Yes, we had someone on YouTube asking. We are reading Monstrous. This is by
Yes.
Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda from Image Comics, and it is available as a free first issue on Image's website.
Hmm.
Now, Paul, you asked the both of us to kind of
Yes.
do a little homework where we wanted to pull our favorite panels
Yeah.
to
So
show.
I pulled basically the whole page, and it was a mix of
I bet
uh,
one of them we might have pulled the same.
definitely, most probably. But I pulled this page because I loved not only the art, but it definitely felt like a it's as weird as it sounds, but it definitely felt like the comic kind of taking a breath.
Mhm.
And then right after this panel or the next, ensuing panel, you kind of get really into the mess that is like the last third of this book, which is very violent. It's awesome, but it's still so I'm curious as to see if we picked the same page and panel. I really hope we did, but I don't think we did.
I'm thinking the way you described it, maybe we did. Do you have it ready?
I do. I totally do.
Okay, are we revealing?
All right, ready? Three,
Yes.
2, 1. Oh no,
Oh, no!
we definitely chose different pages.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ooh,
so that
gonna
those
glare.
are the monstra, right? I believe that's
Yes.
what they're called, and they're supposed to be like these. So what Amy has pulled up, we'll kind of go over her panel first because it's a beautiful, beautiful panel. Uh,
Let me see if I can
where
get it without the glare, the whole kind of page. So you see the characters down at the bottom, and then the monstra that they are
r-
fighting, or not
right,
fighting, that they are observing.
right. So okay, so I'll ask everyone out there wherever you're watching, What is the first? Just give me the first thing that comes to mind when you see that panel. And then Amy, I'm curious to see what your answer is. That's not related to this comic book. What's the first thing that
First
comes
thing,
to mind?
Godzilla.
Oh, my first thing was Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, okay.
It
Yeah.
totally
I would
reminds me of
get
Shadow
there.
of the Colossus.
Yes.
Like, that's what I thought when I saw that. I was like, wow, that definitely looks like some if you've played Shadow of the Colossus, like the blue glowing things and
Mhm.
like I saw Shadow of the Colossus in that. And I think, oh, maybe this reminds me of
Well, in
Shadow
the
of the
next,
Colossus more than I
because
thought. Yeah.
I'm cheating because I didn't pick this panel, but in the next panel, the way it turns and walks away, it's
Yeah.
just one of those. It's one of those things. Yeah, I can totally see Shadow of the Colossus where you see the monster, but it's
Mhm.
not doing you any harm, and it just you let it go, and it lets you go, and
And it's not even a
that's a
monster.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's such a it's a friggin' breathtaking panel because it the page is the same size as all the pages before and after it, but
Right.
that page makes you as the reader feel small, which is really cool.
Yeah. And I think I really loved this panel. Again, it's gonna be kinda hard to see without this Zoom
Oops.
background, taking over. But the
If you
panel
can
is
describe it to me, I can find it in my copy.
yeah, it's this right before the scene that she has where she's chasing the wolves.
Okay.
Yeah. And I really just loved it because, again, I felt really obsessed there it is, that one. I it was the first time I think that the book had kind of at this point, let her be alone really, and you
Mhm.
kind of again, like, I took a breath when I was reading this because you're just thrown into this, and I was taking so many different notes, like, I don't understand what this word means, I don't know what this is, what is this big 5-year war? And then you kinda get there, and it stops, and this is almost exact is it about in the middle of the book, would you say?
Um, no, it's probably in about the first third of the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm
Because
looking for the halfway point. The halfway point, is when she breaks into the office and sets the guard on fire. But this is
yes.
this is about the first third of the book. But it's
And
such an immense book. I don't know the exact page count, but this is almost triple the size of a typical comic book, the
right.
first issue.
Yeah, I think to okay, so there's we're getting some answers from when I asked people what they was the first thing they thought of. On YouTube, Kuba Rigel says King Kong. JJ Joe says I thought of the electrical monster from Scooby Doo.
Thank you.
That's
Okay,
super.
so see King Kong, and I'm not
Yeah,
far off with like the Godzilla type. I think because it reminds me of Hedorah, the kind of smog monster. But
yeah. Yeah, we definitely have some people here. Julian Sabian says, or I'm sorry, Richard Anderson, Sound of Takeda's art is incredible. And again, guys, if you're just joining us, we are doing kind of a more of a deep dive, and this is like the first, you know, book club where we let you guys all vote on the book that we were going to read, and everyone else was going to read. And the book was Monstrous #1 by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. And so
yes, and
that's what we're
this
discussing.
yeah, and this is kind of in honor of, if you missed the discussion, um, usually Wednesday is New Comic Book Day and CBD, but because there are no current new books coming out, comic book writer Matthew Rosenberg has started a new initiative, which is New to You Comic Book Day, which means it's not necessarily new to the shelves, but you've never read it before. And so this is a perfect time to discover a book that is already out and available to you in some form if it's digitally or you can physically purchase
Right.
and have it shipped to you. These are books that are new to you, and you may discover the newest book that you love the most and that you're
Yeah.
eagerly awaiting for when the publishing starts up again. So I think that's really cool. And the publishers who have made free books available, like Vault Comics, Valiant, Image, Top Cow, those are the perfect resources for finding something that is new to you for New to You Comic Book Day. There are over 130 titles on Image's website, and so we're going to be pulling from those to do some more of these kind of discussions and hopefully introduce you to a new book that either you said I don't really have the time, or if I could get the first issue but it's out of print, or I don't know if I want
Right.
to commit to the trade. This is the perfect way to dip your toe in. Monstrous is a triple sized issue, but all of them are quick little jaunts into whether or not you will like this series. And I think it's such a great initiative because there are so many books. You will never be able to read every single comic book as much as it hurts me to say that. You will never be able to read every comic book. So why not take the time when you're not catching up on weeklies to go back and find something that you haven't discovered yet?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was just
That's okay.
responding to
I
someone there, and
was like, that was the big segue.
and yeah. So again, we were reading Monstrous, and I think this is definitely a book that needs to be on everyone's radar. It 100% was, I think, on both of our radars, especially Amy. She'd already read it, but again, it had been a while. And it's a perfect example of like I always knew I definitely wanted to read it. It's just like, time or resources, whatever it was.
Mhm,
And this is the perfect time, as Amy was saying. And I think that the resources for everyone to read to find something you're interested in to read is out there. I did just drop our link to our ever going blog that Amy is constantly updating, and it really does have a lot of resources on there for you guys to read, whether it's Boom. I think obviously all the Image First are on there. I Dark Horse has quite a few on there as well.
yeah, I think Dark Horse updated because they actually have 2 sections on their website. One of them was a perpetual free issues that were a lot smaller samplers,
Mhm.
and sometimes they'd make the free comic book day issues available, but they have updated with an even larger slate of free books available. So if you're interested in the Umbrella Academy, maybe you watched the
Ooh,
Netflix show, you can check out the Umbrella Academy. You can check out, they own the license for Alien and Predator comics, so maybe you want to check out some of those. I know they're even doing a comic series. I don't know if
those
it's
are
on their
good.
website, but they're doing a comic book series based on William Gibson's unused Alien script,
Oh,
um,
right.
or I think Alien 3 or something. Um, so Dark Horse has a lot of fun licensed ones. They've also got stuff for kids. They've got Plants vs Zombies. The W has the Disney license, um, and so there's just a lot of comics that are out there for you.
Yeah.
Um, and looks like, oops, Facebook got interrupted, but I think we're back. Um, and it is Jasmine Edwards notes. I struggle reading digital comics. I'm going to try. It is a very different way to do it, especially if you are used to doing physical issues. Uh, Choice of device really helps. I actually don't read on this iPad. I primarily use it for watching Harley Quinn, but I prefer to read on a web browser, and so the DC Universe app is available through a web browser. If
Huh.
you like to read on your phone, you can do that. There are actual websites that do digital comics where you can just scroll continuously on your phone, so every panel is laid out one on top of the other, which is a
Mhm.
fascinating format. But there are a lot of different ways for you to do it. And at the very least, if you got so like desperate you could print the pages out, I wouldn't suggest doing that. That might be a waste of paper.
Yeah.
Um, but it is worth a try. And ultimately, maybe you could even use it as a resource to flip through the art. And if you like the artwork, consider picking up
Yeah.
the physical trade if you can order it from somewhere. Um, there are so many amazing books out there. I mean, if you're looking at the image list, my quick hit list is um, check out The Wicked and Divine, check out Die. I think Bitterroot is on there. Highly
The root
recommend
is on
that.
there.
That
Yeah.
is, I think that is one of the series is that's a series that people are going to regret not picking up sooner. It's about a family of monster hunters in Harlem in the 1920s dealing with
Right.
monsters that are formed from corruption and sadness in human souls, and it's just a fun story, and it's still the 20s, so like the ladies are expected to be at home making the serum that heals the demons, but one of the women of the family is like the best hunter in the family and she wants to be out there. um and it's a really beautiful exploration of the black family and the Harlem Renaissance, and then like there just happen to be monsters running around Harlem. And I really like Bitch Planet. It's
It
hard
is
for me to
great.
recommend that. It's
Uh,
great, but
Crowded
because
is
they
on
did some.
there.
Oh, yeah, Crowded.
First issue of Crowded is on there.
For me, I get sad because, Bitch Planet stopped at 10 issues and has been, like, on an indefinite hiatus, but I really love that book. Crowded. Crowded, Crowded, Crowded. That is so
Yes.
much fun. Um, that one's about Kickstarter for assassination attempts and what happens when a girl wakes up and finds there's $1 million bounty on her head for the first person who is able to successfully kill her. There are so many titles, and we'll have to read Spawn. We'll have to read
Yeah,
Spawn.
we'll definitely have to read Spawn. I think the one thing I would recommend everyone read if we're gonna, because we are running a little bit out of time here, guys. But I would recommend reading Mark Millar and Sean Gordon Murphy's. It was only a 12, like a maxi series called Chrononauts.
Mm.
It's basically about two bros. They're like the broiest bros you can think of, but they are also, one of them is an incredibly intelligent scientist, and the other one is someone who just has like all the instinct that the scientist doesn't have. And they are just kind of going through a timeline, cleaning it up a little bit. The art is incredible, and again, this is way back when Sean Gordon Murphy was, at least from what I know, he was doing predominantly art. Um, he did this right before he did a book with Scott Snyder that I love too, called The Wake, which is another great
Mm.
book. So Chrononauts, go pick that up if you're a big time travel person. But before anything, because I haven't read it yet, I'm gonna go read after this. I'm reading Crowded because I have not read that yet.
Please do,
Um,
and I'm gonna jump to The Long Halloween.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes.
And I'll just keep on reading Jason Aaron's Avengers because I've been burning through that. But there's no shortage of things for all of us to keep our brains busy, which is the most important thing. If not only want to keep your brain busy, again, please join us next Wednesday as well for Get Super with Joshy G. Tomorrow we actually have a whole lot of fun. So if you are a Final Fantasy fan, we are actually celebrating the release of Final Fantasy VII, the remake, tomorrow. I know
That's
that
gonna be
it comes out
fun.
on Friday, but anyone who cares about Final Fantasy is going to be playing on Friday, so they're not going to be watching the show. So we're going to be doing that show on Thursday, and it's going to be fun for me because I have never played a Final Fantasy game. I am there to learn with everyone because the panel that we're going to have, they all love Final Fantasy. That is at noon, and then at 5 o'clock we have another episode of Sideshow's Game Night. This is unplugged, where we kind of just hang out. We're gonna have Amy Cassandra Martinez on. She's so much fun. She's one of our Sideshow hosts, and we're gonna be playing some games. Friday we have an unboxing and giveaway going on as well, and then Friday night at 5 p.m. And again, these are all Pacific Standard Time, guys. 5 p.m. we have the social distancing dinner party with Jeff May and his girlfriend Valerie Tosi. So there is a lot to do, guys, and we're just trying to be here for all of you right now,
Mhm.
and promote to stay inside show because it's really what we all need to be doing, but doesn't mean you have to be bored. There's plenty to do.
Yeah, there you can still let your geek side show while you stay inside show.
Yep.
Just before we sign off, wrapping up the last couple of YouTube comments, someone asked me to repeat the name of the comic I mentioned. I believe you referring to the Hidden Gems. That was Bitter Root. Definitely check that one out. That's the Monster Hunters. JJ
Yes.
Joe says definitely support your local comic book store. If you are able to do so safely and responsibly, hit them up on Facebook or social media. Send them some love. Send them an order if they're doing mail service, because you can pick up these books if you want to go further than just looking at the digital resources. And Tim Merritt with the coolest suggestion of the day: DC Universe on a 4K TV so that you can read the comics zooming into each panel.
That is the
Yeah.
fanciest sentence I've ever heard in my
Oh my
life.
god. I mean, I don't know if my television is 4K, but I'm gonna see if I can hook up the iPad because that sounds like the rest of my evening.
That sounds really dope. You're gonna be like, well, I didn't read any comics, but I zoomed in on a lot of stuff
Oh yes.
and zoomed in 130%. The art holds up. So,
Yeah.
but thank you guys all so very much. Everyone that was watching or has watched on Periscope, on YouTube, on the Facebook page, and in the Facebook group.
From
Thank you guys
Krypton, from Atlantis.
from Krypton, from Atlantis, from
Asgard.
previously from Asgard. Thank you guys all so very much. We really appreciate it. We're here every Wednesday, unless for whatever reason, we're not. But I'm not drowning. Amy's not flying away.
They can stop the presses, but they can't stop us reading comics. We're gonna
Never.
celebrate. We're gonna celebrate New to You Comic Book Day every single day that we got it until we actually get new comic books to read.
Yes.
But until then, we're gonna work on reading every single comic book ever written.
We sure are.
All right, thanks guys so much for watching. I'm
Bye, guys.
Amy,
I'm Paul.
and this was the Comics Hall.
Don't forget to tell your Geek Side show.
Woo!
Bye, nerds. Bye, geeks. Bye, friends. Bye, guys. Banter.